That's what I'm saying. We got to do right by our dreamers. I hope they don't. But as of right now, dreamers are federally protected still. They are. They're not deporting dreamers right now. You can't, there are no new registrants. You cannot register newly as a dreamer. If you weren't doing it before, you can't do it now. But ultimately, I think it would be fair, and this is what I have said, the Democrats are picking the wrong battles. They need to zero in their focus right now, and they need to make dreamers, nobody else, dreamers, their top priority. That is what they need to be negotiating with Donald Trump. Like, we'll sign off on whatever you need for this, and that for you to enforce immigration. And for that, we want a path to amnesty for dreamers. And I think the vast majority of MAGA, if it was packaged and sold to us correctly, and if he could get what he other things he needed out of the deal, would go for that. Because again, especially us millennials, we grew up with dreamers. A lot of us have friends that are dreamers, or we work with dreamers, or we employ dreamers. Dreamers can work for livable wages. You could sell this to MAGA. You could. Because again, the vast majority of MAGA, it's about economics. It's not about race or anything like that.
ICE's deportation machine are brutal and inhumane. Proponents say criminal fugitives have no place in American society, even if removing them could cause the populations of some places to collapse.
It is now an official hashtag, disappeared in America, referring to immigrants scooped up by masked men who don't identify themselves, and then they are taken to undisclosed locations.
It's not kidnapping.
Can you believe this?
Homeland Security guidelines say that during detentions, agents should identify themselves, but not until, quote, it's practical and safe to do so, which they don't believe to be while surrounded with screaming onlookers.
I'm completely outraged. It's completely despicable what is happening, and we're just trying to do as much as possible to support the families that are right now in the crosshairs of this administration.
Are there more days coming ahead?
Absolutely. We're going to be out there every day.
What we're doing is we're really going after the criminal aliens, of which we have plenty to work with.
Perhaps the greatest allies.
Now, let me be clear, and I've seen Tom Homan and Donald Trump say this on several occasions. What the Democrats are upset about is that Donald Trump has made statements like this, and Tom Homan, we're going after the criminals first. They've always said first. And then it's always, I've seen them follow that up in several interviews. But make no mistake, if we run across you and you are an illegal immigrant, regardless of your criminal status, we are going to arrest you. They've said it several times. So they've said the criminals will be priority, but everybody, if you're in this country, you're fair game. I've heard Tom Homan say it several times. The problem is that people only watch chopped up clips and they don't go watch interviews in their entirety. So their opinions are completely reactionary and devoid of full context.
The self-deportation effort are the president's political opponents and those in the media. They are instilling the very same terror that they contend the Trump administration is creating.
If you look younger than your age, you might be one of us. If you've never broken a single bone.
So experts are saying the population of California is at risk of sinking because ICE is doing its job. And what nobody's talking about is this has huge implications, not just for California, but for America as a whole, because it means we've been grossly misled as to how many people are actually living here illegally. And now that the Supreme Court has allowed the termination of birthright citizenship, entire swaths of the U.S. are bracing for impact, as there are an estimated extra 20 million people living here who illegally entered the country over the last 4 years, many owing tens of thousands of dollars to smugglers and gangs to sneak them in, where it was hoped they'd find loopholes in America's laws to live and work.
I'm glad he brought this up. I'm going to shout this to the rooftops. I talked about this in my last live, especially for all of you well-intentioned liberals who think that open borders is a great thing and like No human is illegal on stolen land that we fought. Not only did the United States fight for, right, but also purchase. So, once you buy it, it's no longer. When somebody buys it from you, it's no longer yours. Okay. There were so many nefarious things going on during that route to the southern border. Again, we had 500,000 kids go missing that we still have not found. We had kids being delivered en masse to businesses that we still haven't found. I'm going to shout that to the rooftops. Child trafficking exploded under the Biden-Harris administration. Not only that, a lot of people who don't have money and decide that they want to make that Star Trek voyage through the southern border, do you know who they sell when they don't have funds? They sell their children. They might bring a daughter or a son along, and they will sell their children to the cartel, or they will let several cartel members SA them on their way up here. See, this is something y'all don't want to talk about. This is why we need to disincentivize illegal immigration. It is a human rights issue. Y'all want to keep talking about human rights this, human rights that. An open border is definitely a human rights issue. I showed y'all, what was that, 3 or 4 lives ago, a transgender woman who was talking about how she was SA'd several times. I pulled the receipts on this, is what I'm saying. These cartels will basically track these people. They know where their family lives in their country of origins. They have a lot of resources. They're heavily armed. And they say, you got to go to the United States and you got to work off a debt. So what do these people do? They get to the United States. They don't have a job. Now you robbing to pay the cartel. You might not even want to rob. Now you got to rob. You got to snatch purses. You got to snatch phones. You got to sell a little cootie cat. Whatever it is, so you can pay these people who are not playing with you.
Here forever. But that's not what's happening. High numbers of people are deciding to leave America voluntarily, and this has activists very alarmed, which is why they're now fighting tooth and nail to get ICE out of their cities, claiming that the Trump administration is disappearing people who get arrested on an immigration violation, when in reality, people without permission to stay here are held in dorm-like facilities with workout equipment and soccer fields, as well as signs reminding them they can leave America right now and get $1,000. But that brings us to the real reason activists are...
$1,000, that's enough money to go get set up in another country. They could find them a little apartment for a lot of them already have family they can go stay with. But if they don't, you can go find you a little apartment for like $300 your first month while you try to get a job. Food doesn't cost that much. $1,000 goes a long way. And honestly and truly, I'm still learning ways. I've been in Colombia for over a year now. I'm still learning ways to make a dollar stretch here. I'm still like, dang, I was spending too much money on this or spending too much money on that. You can get a pack of arepas here, which is like a really popular Colombian. It's kind of like a tortilla, but more thick, that they eat here. And I'm like, oh, I understand why y'all eat these every day for breakfast, because you can get a pack of arepas for like less than 75 cents.
So upset about the Trump 2.0 agenda, lawless areas of our country could cease to function as they have for quite some time if their illegal populations decide to leave, which it turns out wouldn't be such a bad thing for the law-abiding residents and businesses who are left, as employment opportunities are sure to abound for legal workers, as criminal companies can no longer break federal laws and hire a workforce of underpaid fugitives. And while businesses that were hiring illegally complain it's not fair to take away all of their unlawful workers, some of them are now finding ways...
Oh, boo-hoo. You can't exploit people anymore. I don't care. Honestly and truly, why are they complaining so loud? They should be afraid to go to jail. They should be too afraid to go to prison for breaking the law to even speak up. It's the audacity for me. And that's why I say put them in jail. Put the business owners in jail. Especially if it's a situation where you have a large factory. I saw one factory where their entire workforce was illegal immigrants, and the owner tried to act like he didn't know any of them were illegal. Sir. Okay. California is overpopulated anyway. It's severely liberal, but I don't know how mad am I really. I mean, my whole thing is with these states, these liberal states, losing a huge amount of their population, it serves them right. Because guess what? This is what happens when you get too greedy, Democrats. Y'all try to open the borders and rig the game and send a lot of these illegal immigrants to swing states, or you try to not have any voter ID laws in a lot of these counties and states where these illegal immigrants are. You try to rig the game, and guess what? Now you're going to pay for it. Here are the consequences. Let's see what happens next election. And I feel like that's why Donald Trump is moving so fast in places like this, because midterms are coming up and they know that they need to thin the herd. Let me see what you're saying. Give me a second. How does he pay taxes without a legal green card or SSI? I know some illegal immigrants have like a TIN number. So some do. And then like if you're a dreamer, dreamers can pay taxes. But let's be clear. Let's be for real. Even if you have a TIN number or whatever the case may be, if it's a situation where you're getting paid cash under the table, then y'all honestly and truly believe those people are reporting the correct income on their income taxes. First of all, why would you? Like, I'm not even mad at them. If you're getting paid under the table, why would you go self-report? And Americans can be upset about that, but like, we are a country that literally went to war over a 2% tax on tea. So we don't even like paying taxes. So why would we expect them to like realistically be paying taxes when they can evade that process? Right? Especially if there's no documentation of them being in the country at all. I'm not even mad at them for that. I'm just keeping it real. I don't like paying taxes. But you can't be not paying taxes. And then in some cases, like what was going on in New York, you're getting all this government assistance. And again, that wasn't happening everywhere. We weren't in Texas. The illegal immigrants were not getting all that assistance. But in these sanctuary cities, they were living off of the dime of the American taxpayer. Your family came here legally in 1970. I was born in the USA a few years after that. Oh, my family came here legally in 1970. Where's your family from? I was born in the USA a few years after that. Supporting illegal immigration is exactly like telling someone's children to go play on a highway. Well, and not just that, it's not fair for the people who are trying to come here legally, who spend all that money, who are waiting in line. And a lot of people feel away, especially in Latin America, because it's easier for an American to get a visa to go stay in Latin America than it is for a Latin American to get a visa to come live in the United States. And I understand that, but the problem is that you, either way it goes, you have to prove financial solvency. So the issue is not that the United States doesn't want to give them the opportunity. It's like, can you support yourself? So if you can't support yourself, then they're not gonna allow you to come to the United States. Furthermore, we're talking about in the United States, the entire world. I'm not saying everybody in the entire world. I'm saying people from all countries around the entire world want to flood into the United States all at once. So we have to prioritize certain visas over others because we can't take in everybody that wants to come, versus a lot of these other countries are dealing with a much smaller influx of immigration, and they are meeting a standard of having to be able to financially provide for themselves. So they're not coming and living off of government assistance. Without illegals working, they can't afford regular salary wage workers. I don't know. The prophets say otherwise. The prophets say otherwise. I don't know. I'm sure some businesses will have to be forced to close down. Sure. But a lot of these, like these major factories and things like that, the prophets say otherwise.
To fire them in the least progressive way possible.
It's an honest day's work. But for a growing number of day laborers, there's nothing honest when it comes to their paychecks.
He owes us about $55,000 in robbed salary.
You mean to tell me that the businesses begging for more illegal workers aren't taking care of the illegal workers they have right now? This sure not. Destroys the idea that...
Because what are you going to do? If I decide I'm not going to pay, if I decide I'm not going to pay you for the week and you're here illegally, what are you going to do? You're going to call the police? Are you going to try to sue me? Ma'am, let me get on the phone and call ICE right away. That's how they come at their employees. Versus if this was a legal immigrant, the legal immigrant can take legal action against the employer without fear of deportation.
Sanctuary cities and states help anyone achieve the American dream. When, as you're about to see, the reality of life in America for someone here illegally has and always will be a complete nightmare.
Their employer never paid them.
Every week it'd be, I'll pay you the next week. And at the end of the week, he would only pay us $100, $200.
Supporting a family of 5, he says he didn't have a choice but to just keep going back.
You could have 1 million followers and still not be able to pay your bills.
Over 1 million creators and brands are growing faster, engaging.
It makes me feel sad. I work hard for my money. I need it for my necessities.
Although Manuel's case was filed several years ago.
Sir, I am sure, I don't know where he's from. But if that man was only paying you $100 a week, you can't go back to your own home country where things are like cheaper, life is a little bit more comfortable, you might have more holidays. You don't think you could go back to your country and make $100 a week, depending on where you're from? Because like here in Colombia, I think the minimum wage is like $300 a month. That's not a lot of money, right? But that's on like the low, like this is Colombia, like that. Colombia minimum wage is less than like a Mexican minimum wage. So that's what I'm saying. The country he's from matters. Cause like I'm gonna be thinking like, oh no, but I could just go right back to where I'm from if you're only gonna pay $300 a week, $100 a week. Are you crazy?
Now, it was never resolved. And with immigration enforcement spreading fear in his community, workers' rights groups say cases of wage theft are increasing.
Since April 22nd, which was the day of the raid at the Pomona Home Depot.
So we've been told for years that illegal immigrants just want to come here and improve their lives while improving the lives of Americans. But don't you see, that's not what's happening at all. Instead, the jobs that these folks are working have illegally been removed from a legitimate labor market because for years their corrupt, predatory employers have gotten away with taking advantage of workers and underpaying them while saving money and claiming they're making.
The only time I've really seen illegal immigrants win is when they like start their own business. So I have a friend who is here on DACA. This was actually like my first boyfriend. But his parents brought him here, and like when he was young, I remember he actually almost got deported, and then like while he was in detention, ICE detention, DACA went into effect. So anyway, he started in an apprenticeship, and then he doing counters, and then he just started doing them himself and build up his own clientele. That kind of illegal immigrant is charging what they want. They're charging what the work is worth. But if you're an illegal immigrant, but he spoke English, but if you're an illegal immigrant that doesn't speak English and you don't know how to talk to people, negotiate prices, build up a clientele, you're going to struggle because you're going to have to go work for one of these companies that's going to dog you out.
The world a better place. And although those workers may have employment for some time, they can't just quit their jobs and go work somewhere else if their employer stiffs them, which it seems like is now happening a lot in many of these communities that we're told are better because they're sanctuary communities where federal laws don't apply. But now that ICE is in town enforcing federal laws, it seems like these businesses and their workers are having quite a conflict.
The wage theft are increasing.
Since April 22nd, which was the day of the raid at the Pomona Home Depot, we have detected
terrible.
about 30 cases across Home Depots of day laborers who are now owed money.
Alexis Teodora
I'm not
is
gonna lie, that sucks. That has to be the worst situation to be. I feel for these people. Imagine like your employers already know ICE is out and they're on the loose, so they see this as an opportunity to effectively enact slavery. Like, I'm gonna get as much free work from you as I can because you're in fear of being deported. There's nothing you can do about it. Matter of fact, if you try to do something about it, I just might call ICE myself. This is terrible. They need to go to jail. Not the immigrants, these employers. They're like human scum. And not every person who hires illegal immigrants. If you're a person who hired an illegal immigrant and you paid them a fair wage and you were nice to them, you still shouldn't do that. But like these people who hired illegal immigrants specifically for the purpose of exploiting them, this is human scum.
the worker rights director at the Pomona Day Labor Center. He says their cases of wage theft have skyrocketed in recent weeks.
Take them to work, they finish their shift, and at the end they don't pay them. And when the day laborers try to exert their rights to get paid, which is their right under the California Labor Code, employers usually threaten them with calling immigration.
You're going to deny him that and threaten him with immigration.
So the people who are bearing the brunt of this are the illegal day laborers who are at places like Home Depot, which just so happen to be the target of many recent immigration enforcement.
To me, the way to fix that would be demand your money up front. But see, everybody would have to do that. The problem is when you have a situation where it's a race to the bottom, then people will try to undercut you. Oh, he's not going to go work unless you give him the money up front. Well, I'll go work and you don't give me the money up front because I'm trying to undercut this other person. But if all of the day laborers were like, no, you have to pay us before we do the job, if they all stood on that, then that would eliminate that problem right there. But the problem is when you have a bunch of people in survival mode, there is no honor amongst thieves. Not calling them thieves, but y'all know what I'm saying. You're always going to have people that cross the picket line.
Operations. You've got fly-by-night contracting operations, hiring workers off the street in an illegal, under-the-table manner. And it turns out that sometimes those workers don't get paid or treated properly. Is that fair? No, but it's only happening because people are here illegally. And since they're out there looking for illegal, secret employment, this exploitation keeps happening. And you know something? It's going to keep happening even if everybody in these Home Depot parking lots had legal status. And that's because illegal, unregulated employment is so common. It's going to keep being offered. People are going to keep being picked up for secret jobs that never get reported. But the fascinating thing is we're not hearing about a legitimate business.
A lot of these people, I promise you, and I've heard them say, I've heard Colombians who went to the United States come back and they've said, my life is easier here in Colombia. Why? Because they come live with family. They get their national holidays. Yeah, they might not make a lot of money, but at least during like Christmas, the employer has to pay them double their wage. They have access to workers' rights and protections because they're working legally. The cost of living, it's lower. Yeah, is it going to hurt? It's going to be harder on them, yes, because they're making pesos. But it's like the American, especially if you're living in like a southern city or a place with no public transportation or everything is far, or depending on the zoning of the city, America is not built for you to be poor and struggling. It's not. We don't have the infrastructure. It's a very, especially the American South. The American South is a very hard place to be poor. Like, don't have car problems in the American South. Your whole life stops. You can't even get to work. You lose your job. Like, it's not a place you want to be struggling. There are places around the world where it's a little easier to struggle. For example, let's say something happened here in Medellin. I tell people all the time, I rarely leave my barrio because I don't have a reason to. If I get sick, I go downstairs and I go 2 doors down. There's a pharmacy. If I go across the street, there's the bodega. If I want something to drink, right downstairs next door is the dentist. If I go walk around the corner, there's a fruteria. And if I go around the corner, there's a carniceria, so I can go get my fruit and my meat. If I need something for my hair, if I walk downstairs, turn the corner, there's a beauty supply store. If you have pets, there's a pet shop on every corner. My gym is like less than a 5 minutes walking distance from me. If I went to church, the Catholic church is like a 3-minute walk for me. So like if I was ever in a position to where I was struggling financially, this is like literally the best place to be, because I wouldn't even have to spend money on transportation.
Doing this to people, which must mean that the contracting groups hiring people and then refusing to pay them have legitimacy problems of their own, including possibly the immigration status of those workers as well.
Where is the justice in that?
Pomona City Councilwoman Nora Garcia says the city is hoping to find extra resources to help prosecute offenders.
Pay people what you owe them. It's quite that simple. Anyone who believes that America is the land of equal opportunity needs to be willing to give that to everyone, regardless of immigration status.
Because in California, every worker.
Hello.
What's your name?
I name it Laura.
Do you mean my name is Laura?
Yes. Perdón.
Where are you?
And some people
has
might
rights.
disagree because y'all might feel like, this is the risk they took coming here. I feel like these workers, if they ever get detained by ICE, then there should be some enforcement. If there has been wage theft, before they get sent home, these companies need to pay them their money. Because at the end of the day, they worked hard. And not only do they need to pay them their money, but the wages need to be at least minimum wage. Or else these owners should be put in jail. Because that's not right. And then that will be a lesson. It will make an example of all these people who hire illegal immigrants for the purposes of exploitation. But all these people, they need to be entitled to get sent back home with all the wages they worked for.
Okay, so something very strange is happening right here. These activists are absolutely outraged that companies are out there and not paying people, but they're not telling us who those companies are. Is it Amazon? Is it Walmart? Tell us who the bad guys are.
I'm sorry, y'all. My comments were not updating. What up, Cha-Cha? Good to see you. Who else is in here? Binky was in here? Oh, I miss at Binky Bianca. She might pop in. Good to see you, Cha-Cha. Sorry, y'all. Sometimes my comments don't update and I'll just be going and going.
Are so that this doesn't happen to anybody else. No, they're not doing that. For some reason, these companies are a secret. And we aren't even told the name of the company Or the boss who this gentleman works for? Who is his boss? Why doesn't he pay people? Where is he finding his workers? It's very strange that the identities of these employers are being hidden. And we all know if Target or Best Buy was doing this to people, it would be a massive story, which is how you know the legal status of these quote unquote employers is probably also up in the air. And it's almost as if the news wants us to believe ICE is making things worse for people in the country illegally, but doesn't want us to know that people in the country illegally are preying upon each other in a work environment. And the truth is that illegal immigration is essentially modern day slavery. And now that that's coming to an end, there's even less of a reason for people here
and that's why,
unlawfully.
like, these liberals, like, they really, the ones who were like calling MAGA racist and Trump supporter racist, it's like y'all literally sit on the internet every day and are like, well, who's going to pick our food? Or who's going to cook in the kitchen? Or who's going to clean the toilets? Or who's going to babysit the kids? And it's like, you can pay an American citizen a livable wage to do most of those jobs. Probably not the field. I ain't even gonna hold you. Most Americans don't want to do farm work. But like, I know plenty of them. I know plenty of Americans. Like, I know plenty of Black women in America that have like cleaning businesses who go clean houses. I got a friend now. You pay her for the right price for $400, she gonna come clean your house. Okay?
To stay.
Most of the attention that's been focused on the Trump administration's deportation plans has focused on arrests and removals of aliens unlawfully present in the United States. There's another separate deportation program that the Trump administration is running at this time that's received a lot less notice, and that is its voluntary deportation program. That program began on the president's first day in office, January 20th, 2025. In addition, the Trump administration has reconfigured the CBP-1 app that the Biden administration used to funnel hundreds of thousands of illegal migrants into the United States, into the CBP.
Okay, so while ICE raids are making headlines and we're hearing from activists about how they're so horrible and so inhumane, most of the people leaving America have decided to do it on their own. And that's what's got these activists so upset and these employers that hire people illegally so concerned, because it means that
I talked to a couple people who are like, I'm thinking about leaving on my own, because you got to understand, like, especially if it's a situation where they've been working and saving, they're going to go to their country and be good. There are some people who have already bought houses in their own. They already have houses in their own countries. They're just here working, stacking up, you know. So like the ones who felt like, okay, I don't want to deal with this, or I don't want to be in a situation where, you know, I get arrested and my family's here and my family's there. A lot of them are like, okay, yeah, I'll take the $1,000. I already got something stacked up. Who this is going to hurt more than anything is the brand new immigrants who came these last 4 years and never really even got an opportunity to get a job, right? But if it's a situation where, y'all, my camera is about to die. But if it's a situation where they've been here illegally for like 10 years or something, they built some marketable skills, they've saved some money. When I tell you they're going to go back to their country and be good, they're going to be living better than what they were living in the United States. They're going to have cleaner food, fresh air. They're not going to have to work as much. Their US dollars are going to stretch because they're letting them leave with their US dollars.
illegal immigration isn't working out the way our televisions tell us it does. We're supposed to believe that every worker here illegally wants to stay forever and they're just having the time of their lives. But the shocking thing about this is if being in America illegally was such a wonderful thing and these illegal immigrants were really as treasured by their community.
I'm sorry, another resource that they might have access to, and again, this is not everybody, but if you were here like illegal, let's say it's a grandma and she's been here illegally for 30 years and she done had about like the mom, she got like 4 kids and they're here legally and they're working. Do y'all think they're going to let her go back to where she's from and starve? No, all of them are going to be sending her remittances. She might not even have to work. That money is going to stretch. So this is, of course, case by case dependent, but in some situations, a lot of situations actually, these illegal immigrants now have ties to the United States, and they're going to be able to go live a better quality of life than a lot of struggling Americans right now. I'm just being honest about the situation. It's not a loss for everyone that has to go back.
As activists tell us, they wouldn't be going home on their own.
On the heels of that, DHS is also offering $1,000 stipends and free airline tickets to aliens who agree to go home on their own. 1 million foreign
That's a
workers
lot of people.
have left the workforce since March. In other words, while DHS has deported about 200,000, it appears that anywhere between 500,000 and 1 million other aliens have left the United States.
Dang! So more people have left voluntarily than those that have gotten deported. And the thing is, if you leave voluntarily, Trump has said you're not going to be banned from the country. So if you do a voluntary deportation, you have the opportunity. Now, it might not be granted, but you have the opportunity to apply for a visa. That is actually very generous. So not only are they giving them the opportunity to self-deport, they're paying for the flight home, sending them home with $1,000, and leaving the door open for you to get in the back of the line and apply for citizenship. That is very generous of the United States. Like, you are not going to convince me that this is evil, especially when I'm going to pull it up again how these people were acting in Mexico last week. For my people who just now came in, I got to show this. I got to show it again. Y'all, if y'all are just now here, please hit the like button. I have got to show. I got to run this back. Because, baby, they were in Mexico cutting up this past week over legal immigration. Now, I even showed them cutting up 6 years ago over illegal immigration. See, Mexicans don't want to take people from other countries in Latin America either. Like, they were acting a fool. But I'm going to show y'all this again and how they were cutting up over Americans legally immigrating to Mexico. Hold on. They acted a fool. I ain't never seen nothing like this. I have never even seen the most racist person in the United States, like for real racist person, cut up the way they were cutting up.
City that got mostly peaceful.
Yeah.
And what's got these Mexicans so upset is peak irony. When remote work became popular in 2020, more and more Americans moved to Mexico City to take advantage of cheaper prices.
It was just a dream that I had. And that dream is just to be treated like everyone else, to be treated fairly, equally, and to have peace. And Mexico City is the place where I've been able to achieve that.
Since then, prices have soared and people are pissed.
They were finding gringo-owned, American-owned businesses, and hold on, let me make this bigger so y'all can see it. And they were like, I'm going to run this back. They were bashing out the windows, looting the businesses, while people were inside these businesses, which is extremely wild behavior. I've never seen even like right-wingers in the United States go break into businesses of illegal or because in the United States, in Texas, we have a lot of illegal immigrants who own businesses. I've just never seen this happen to this. Like, I've never seen anything like this. Like, I've seen people riot and loot over like issues like George Floyd, but like to like target immigrants like this, I've never seen that happen in the United States, whether they be legal or illegal.
That is peak irony. When remote work became popular in 2020, more and more Americans moved to Mexico City to take.
Look, y'all, on this wall, they wrote in English, unalive a gringo. Unalive. They're calling for the unaliving of Americans and Canadians, and like they say unalive. And y'all, here's the crazy part about this. It is not the Americans who are driving up the prices. What's going on is, this happens here in Colombia too. Over like 93% of the housing market is owned by Colombian citizens. So what happens is, when they see Americans coming with American dollars, they are the ones who choose to jack up the prices. For example, in my apartment building, I know for a fact I pay more for my apartment than everybody else for the same thing. There are Colombians here who have bigger apartments than me and more space, and I pay more than them. And the reason why I pay more than them is because I'm coming as an American citizen. I can't get two co-signers. They know I'm coming with my dollars. So people here will not let me pay market value. I would prefer to spend $500 a month on this apartment. I didn't ask to spend what I spend on this. So it is not the fault of the American citizens. It is the fault of the landowners. And like, my whole thing is, take it up with them. Take it up with the people who jack up the prices.
Vienen de otros países, en su mayoría extranjeros, a querer imponer su cultura, sus precios y desplazar a los mexicanos, a los nativos de estas tierras.
So he was saying that they come over here and they like basically don't respect the culture, and they come over here with their prices, and it's displacing the Latinos.
Telling me mass migration has negative effects on the host
It's displacing the Mexicans.
city or country? Unbelievable. Some of these protest signs are so on the nose that I had to make sure I wasn't being swindled by AI. Gringo, stop stealing our home. Your new home is an invasion. Learn Spanish, respect our culture, pay effing taxes. Spanish is spoken here.
Y'all, this is in Mexico. This is in Mexico. And again, these protests are not towards illegal immigration. It's towards legal immigration. Imagine if Americans behave this way over legal immigration. Oh my gosh, we would never hear the end of it. We would never hear the end of it. And in Mexico, I've showed y'all instances where they're protesting against the legals and they don't want any immigration. Wow.
Gringo, I want you to go back to your country, not your home.
And this gringo word. Okay, let me tell y'all something. When people call me gringo to my face, it can be like, depending on context, it could be negative. But honestly and truly, I always feel like there's a little bit of a undertone to it. So like, I go out of my way to find something. Like, if you call me gringo, fine. If you call me gringa, okay. Gorda, okay. Yeah, because you fat. I'm sorry. But like, when I feel like you're coming at me the wrong way, I don't complain about it. I just make sure that I call you another name back. And then if you want to complain about it, then I can just say, what's wrong? There are terms of endearment.
Pay taxes, learn Spanish, respect my culture. Have Americans in Mexico tried shutting down highways? I hear that one's effective. Or burning the Mexican flag? Or starting cars on fire? Come on, guys, the blueprint for success has already been laid out. No human is illegal on stolen land.
Okay.
We are not going anywhere. Our family is not going.
Like I said at the beginning of this live, you would never see American citizens protesting the deportation of illegal American citizens in Mexico. Like that has never happened. Nor would you ever see it here in Colombia. When people overstay their visa, and here's the thing, it's a different type of illegal here. Majority of times when Americans overstay their visa here, they're not intending to stay forever or years and years. They'll like overstay for a month. So you get 6 months out of the year to stay here on a tourist visa. So their mentality be like, okay, I want to stay like 2 more months and I'll just pay the fine. I'll just pay like the $1,000 fine, right? And sometimes even then, when they like have booked a flight and they're gonna leave, the Colombian government could say, well, actually, no, you have to go through the deportation process, even though they were leaving already. That has happened. They might make you miss your flight and you have to go through an official deportation process, which is really bad to have on your record because other countries can see that and they might decide to decline to give you a visa or something like that. So that is not good. Always leave when you're supposed to leave on time. So a lot of people in Latin America get upset because they're like, why can these Americans just kind of come and go? And why is it easier for them to get a tourist visa? Well, because the problem is that when y'all come to the United States on a tourist visa, not all, because I have a friend here he's a business owner here in Colombia, and he goes back and forth to the United States frequently, but he can prove financial solvency. And he can prove he has ties here. That's why he goes back and forth like that. He was just at the beginning of the year in the United States. But the reason why it's easier for us to come here is because of the whole issue of financial solvency. First of all, as an American, there are no jobs for you here. You cannot go to Mexico or Colombia and easily find a job. They employ their own people. The only job you can get is teaching English, really. And even then you have to meet certain qualifications. There's a lot of competition because that's the only thing that you can do. So, and not just that, our immigration patterns are differently. So because we're coming from a country with a higher currency, most people are not going to overstay their visa for a long period of time, versus a lot of the times people are coming to the United States with the intention of overstaying a visa, like with the intention of overstaying their visa and staying in that country for a very long time. So the immigration patterns are different. That's why we're treated differently. And I know that sounds messed up, but like realistically, if the United States said, we're going to have an equal visa policy with Mexico, we're going to give all Mexican citizens 6 months to stay in the United States, and they don't on a tourist visa. So, and they don't have to prove financial solvency. They can just fly in, we put a stamp on their passport, and they don't have to prove they can take care of themselves. Y'all, my God, that would just be complete. Most people would see that as like, this is my free ticket to come in America and just stay forever and find a job. Like, versus American citizens. Another reason why this is different, and it's not right, you should never be in a country illegally, is even if an American citizen does overstay their visa, they're not going to be working or competing with Mexicans for jobs. They'll be working for a company overseas, and then they'll be bringing their dollar in, and that stimulates the economy, versus like draining from public resources and Mexicans having to compete for job. Where the negative impact is cost of housing. But again, that is the citizens of those countries deciding to jack up those prices, where they could easily say, I'm going to give this housing to a local. But I don't support illegal immigration either way. Are protesters in Mexico City really calling Americans gringos and telling them to leave? I thought we had a better relationship. That's what's happening. Yes, they are, but I'll show y'all another video. I showed you that they did that, but it's not just us they do this to. They were doing this in Tijuana. I'm gonna show you this. They do it to other Latinos. So while they're calling Americans racist for deporting Latinos and everybody else who came here illegally, I'm going to show you proof that they do this to other Latinos. Okay, I'm going to share this again. This was